All right, welcome back, everyone. Today we're gonna be taking a deep dive into something pretty wild. It's Russia's recent crackdown on cybercrime.
Yeah, I know, right? You wouldn't really expect it from them.
Not really, no. Russia doesn't exactly have the best reputation for, punishing its hackers, especially when it comes to ransomware.
It's almost like they've been turning a blind eye to it, maybe even longer.
Yeah, for years probably. So this whole sudden change, it's definitely got people talking and wondering what's going on.
Definitely. I mean, it really makes you question this whole idea that Russia was intentionally creating a safe space for cybercriminals.
Right, right.
Maybe it was more about them not having the resources or law enforcement focusing on other things.
That makes
But
sense.
whatever the reason, this shift is definitely shaking things up in the cybercrime world, big time.
For sure. Okay, so where do we even start with this? How about we start with Wazawaka? Remember him, right?
Oh yeah, Mikhail Matveyev.
Yeah, Mikhail Matveyev, a.k.a. Wazawaka. This guy was basically a legend in the hacking world. Openly bragged about being untouchable just because he was in Russia.
Well, his arrest back in November definitely sent a message.
Yeah, didn't it? What do you think it means?
Well, some people think Russia's using these guys as bargaining chips.
Like in those talks with the U.S.?
Yeah, exactly. Especially with everything going on with Ukraine.
So instead of just letting them run wild, they're using them to get leverage in these international situations. That's interesting.
It's a possibility.
Hmm. So Wazawaka's arrest wasn't like a one-off thing, though, was it? I mean, we've seen a bunch of crackdowns in Russia, haven't we? Especially towards the end of last year, 2024.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a whole wave of them. Take the rebel ransomware group, for example. Those guys were notorious. Huge attacks all over the globe.
Yeah, I remember hearing about them.
Well, a bunch of their members got sentenced. And it's not just ransomware either. They arrested this group who were making mobile malware, specifically to hit banks and payment services.
Wow. So it sounds like they're really going after the big players now, the ones who pose a serious threat.
Definitely. And it doesn't stop there. They even went after the SugarLocker ransomware creators.
Oh, wow. Sugar Locker. That was a huge deal. Millions of Australians got their data stolen in that breach.
Yep, that's the one. And on top of all that, they also took down this massive investment fraud call center that was targeting people all over the world.
So it's not just about ransomware then. It's like a full-on crackdown on all sorts of cybercrime.
Pretty much. It seems like Russia is trying to clean up its act. Maybe with these high-stakes talks about Ukraine coming up, they don't want the bad press.
Yeah, that makes sense. But how serious are they really? Is this a real change of heart or just a temporary thing to look good? To figure that out, I guess we need to look at how the Russian government has dealt with its hackers in the past, right?
Absolutely. For a long time, there was this kind of unspoken agreement.
Oh, yeah.
Hackers could basically do what they wanted as long as they didn't mess with Russia or its allies and were ready to help the government out if needed.
Like a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours situation.
Exactly, but some experts think that's changing now. They're pointing to these new laws specifically against data theft and breaches.
So they're finally starting to get serious about cracking down on cybercrime.
It looks like it. Maybe they realized that letting these guys run free was actually hurting them in the long run.
That makes sense. But I remember back in 2021, there was that U.S.-Russia summit, and Biden really pressed Putin on those ransomware attacks coming from Russia.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of pressure from the international community for Russia to do something about it.
And that summit was pretty tense, if I remember correctly.
For sure.
But even if Russia's making a genuine effort now, how much of an impact are they really having on the global ransomware problem?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Ransomware has caused so much chaos and financial damage, especially in the West.
It's a huge problem.
Yeah, and while the data shows that ransomware profits actually went down in 2024, getting rid of these groups in Russia could really change the whole cybercrime scene, but we need to be careful about getting too optimistic.
Why?
Well, we've seen these so-called crackdowns before, and they often turn out to be temporary.
So it's like a game of whack-a-mole. You take down one group and another one pops up somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. Cybercriminals are incredibly adaptable and resilient. They're always finding new ways to stay ahead of law enforcement.
So what do? Just move their operations to countries with weaker laws?
That's one tactic. They might also form new alliances, team up with other groups.
And isn't there a risk of state-sponsored actors getting involved?
Oh, absolutely. Countries like China, Iran, North Korea, they might see this as an opportunity to fill the gap left by Russia.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
So we talked earlier about a cultural shift happening in Russia. What did you mean by that?
Well, there's been this almost romanticized view of hackers in Russia. Yeah, people see them as these digital Robin Hoods stealing from the rich West, but that obviously ignores the real harm these ransomware attacks cause.
It's easy to get caught up in the technical side of things and forget about the actual victims, the real people and businesses that suffer because of these attacks.
Exactly. So if Russia is really serious about fighting cybercrime, they need to change that perception too.
How do they do that?
It's going to take a lot of effort. Public awareness campaigns, education, creating better economic opportunities so people aren't tempted by cybercrime in the first place. It's not just about enforcement, it's about building a society that values ethical behavior online.
So what does all this mean for the average person? What can we do to protect ourselves in this constantly changing cyber world?
This is where companies like Stonefly really come in. They're experts in data storage and security solutions.
Stonefly.com, right? I think I've heard of them. What makes them so special?
Well, they offer all sorts of products and services: secure data storage, cloud backup, disaster recovery solutions. They even have ransomware protection software.
So they've got everything covered.
Pretty much. And they're constantly updating their stuff to stay ahead of the latest threats. They meet the highest industry standards, too.
It sounds like they're really dedicated to staying one step ahead of the bad guys.
Oh, they are. And they work with everyone, from small businesses to huge corporations, even government agencies.
So no matter what you need, they've probably got something for you.
Most likely, yeah.
That's good to know. I'll have to check them out. But what about people like me who aren't tech experts? What are some simple things we can do to protect ourselves from these attacks?
You'd be surprised how effective the basics can be. First things first, back up your data. And I mean regularly.
Like how often?
As often as you can. And keep those backups offline, separate from your computer and network.
That way, even if you get hit with ransomware, you won't lose everything.
Exactly. It's like an insurance policy for your data. And speaking of insurance, make sure your cybersecurity insurance is up to date and covers the kind of attacks you might face. It's also really important to keep all your software updated. Those updates usually include security patches that fix weaknesses hackers could use to get in. Oh, and of course your passwords. Make sure they're strong, unique for each account, and use two-factor authentication whenever you can.
Two-factor authentication, got it. It's just that sometimes it feels a little overwhelming, trying to keep up with all these threats.
Yeah, I get it. It can definitely feel like a lot. But that's where Stonefly comes in. They try to make it as easy as possible. They have this single platform to manage all your security needs. Makes things so much simpler.
Oh, so they're not just throwing products at you, they're actually helping you use them.
Exactly. Plus, they have a whole team of experts ready to help every step of the way.
So it's like a whole support system, not just a software purchase.
Exactly. They get that cybersecurity isn't one size fits all. They'll work with you to create a solution that actually fits your needs.
It's good to know someone's got your back in all this. It can be pretty scary.
Absolutely. Cybersecurity is an ongoing thing. It's not like you set it and forget it. You always got to be paying attention.
So even if Russia manages to clean up its act, we can't just relax, can we?
Nope, not at all. Cybercrime is like a constantly moving target. Even if you shut down one source, another one's going to pop up.
So what do? Just stay ahead of the curve as best we can.
Pretty much. We need to be proactive, not reactive. Invest in good security solutions like the ones Stonefly offers. Learn about the new threats and just try to minimize your vulnerabilities.
And Stonefly.com can help with all that.
They can. They're really focused on innovation and customer support. They're one of the leaders in the industry.
Well, I think we've covered a lot today, from Russia's crackdown to how we can protect ourselves. It's a lot to take in.
We have. It's important to remember cybersecurity isn't just an IT problem anymore. It affects everyone.
It really is everyone's responsibility at this point.
Absolutely. The more we know about the threats, the better we can deal with them and protect ourselves, our businesses, our communities.
So what are some of the key things you want listeners to remember from today?
First of all, the threat is real, and it's not going away. Even with what's happening in Russia, there'll always be new threats. We got to be ready.
Yeah, cybercriminals are always going to be looking for new ways to exploit things.
Always. That's why you got to be proactive. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest in those security solutions, like from Stonefly.com. Stay informed about the latest threats. Minimize your risks.
And if it all seems too much, just ask for help.
Exactly. Stonefly's team can help you through it.
Perfect. So to sum it all up for our listeners, the world of cybercrime is complicated, and it's always changing.
But by staying informed, taking steps to protect ourselves, and getting help when we need it, we can make things a lot safer.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So to our listeners, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Keep learning about this stuff, and stay safe out there in the digital world.
And remember, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better decisions you can make. And if you're looking for a partner in all this, check out Stonefly.com. Their solutions are great, their team really knows their stuff, and their customer support is amazing.
Great advice. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay safe online. It's wild to think about how something like ransomware, which seems so technical, can actually have such a big impact on global politics. I mean, we started talking about Russia's crackdown on cybercrime, and it seemed pretty straightforward at first.
Yeah, but as we've been discussing, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
It really shows how interconnected everything is, how what happens in one country can affect the whole digital world.
Exactly. And it's not just about the technical details of the attacks, it's about understanding why these things happen and what the consequences might be.
Right, and you brought up a really good point earlier about how even if Russia shuts down its whole ransomware industry, The underlying problems, the social and economic factors that contribute to cybercrime, those aren't going away.
Absolutely. We need to be thinking about solutions that address those root causes, not just quick fixes, investing in things like education, economic development, international cooperation, things like that, to create a digital world that's more secure and equitable for everyone.
So it's not enough to just catch the bad guys. We need to create a world where fewer people feel like they have to turn to cybercrime in the first place.
Exactly. And that takes a global effort from governments, businesses, individuals, everyone.
So where do companies like Stonefly fit into all of this?
They play a crucial role, They provide the tools and expertise that people and organizations need to protect themselves, and they're constantly innovating, developing new solutions to stay ahead of the curve.
So they're not just selling products, they're actually helping to make the digital world safer.
Right. They're advocates for cybersecurity awareness and education, empowering people to make informed decisions and stay safe online.
So it's not just about protecting data, it's about protecting people.
Exactly. That's why what they do is so important. They're the front line, helping to build a more secure and resilient digital world.
It's really encouraging to see companies like Stonefly taking such a proactive and holistic approach.
It is. It gives me hope that together we can make cybercrime a thing of the past.
I feel that. Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive for today. We've talked about a lot, from the global impact of Russia's crackdown on cybercrime to the steps each of us can take to protect ourselves in this digital age.
We have. I hope our listeners now have a better understanding of just how complex this issue is and how important cybersecurity is for everyone.
I think they do. So to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning about this stuff, stay informed about the latest threats, and be proactive about protecting yourselves and your organizations.
And remember, if you're ever feeling lost or unsure where to start, reach out to the experts. Companies like Stonefly are there to help with all sorts of resources and support to guide you on your cybersecurity journey. You can visit their website at www.stonefly.com or reach out to their sales team at sales@stonefly.com to learn more.
Great advice. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay safe out there in the digital world. TCND.